you go. Okay, so welcome to a new NATURA webinar, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Loan Diep. I'll be facilitating the presentations and discussions today. Before we start, I invite you to use the chat to tell us who you are, what you do, and where you're joining us from. So who you are, what you do, and what city you're based in. This is webinar number 43, and I'm particularly excited about today's topics. We have the pleasure to host Victor Kinjo and Gabriel Kaprelian, who are connecting from Sao Paulo and from California. Victor and Gabriel's research are quite different, you will see, but they're not so unrelated. They both tackle the topics of water culture and climate change in cities. They explore people's relationship with water and how this relationship needs to evolve or be repaired in the context of climate change. So Gabriel, if it's okay with you, we will start with you. Just to introduce you, Gabriel is an assistant professor of architecture at the California Polytechnic State University and the director of design and innovation for Sustainable Cities program at UC Berkeley. And his work is about the relationships between the built and the natural environment to reveal place-based narratives of the past, the present, and the future. And so his work that he will present is focused on Singapore and provides reflections on urban waterfronts in tidal cities as contested territories. Gabriel, the floor is all yours. And as we said, you should have sharing access.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, Luan, and very happy to be here. Big fan of NATURA, and yeah, look forward to conversations and to see also Victor's presentation. So let me just give this a try and share my slides, and then we'll see this works with you guys. All right, how's that looking?
It's looking great.
Okay. Okay, so my presentation is going to be potentially interactive. So I'm going to be sharing mostly a project that I did in Singapore, and it's an ongoing project that uses augmented reality to visualize the cohabitation of tidal ecologies along Singapore's urban waterfront. So if you'd like to give it a try, you can scan this QR code and download Adobe Aero, which is the AR platform I've been using. And then at the very end, I'll have a QR that you can actually try out the augmented reality. So, you know, my background is as an architect and city planner by training. My work focuses primarily on climate change adaptation that integrates nature-based solutions into the built environment. And over the past decade or so, I've been working a bit in academia, but also in practice, where I've worked on projects that are large-scale master plans, looking at threats of sea level rise and how urban development and tidal ecologies can coexist. Often thinking about how to incorporate nature-based solutions into this management plan. Developing various strategies, so a matrix of adaptation strategies, and how these could be applied to specific conditions. Often my work has been working at the intersection of kind of nature-urban interface, primarily on waterfronts, and thinking about how these can be places for cohabitation of both people and thriving wild natural environments. As opposed to a park-like environment. But, you know, kind of seeing a need for platforms for collaboration and communication. A lot of my work has gone into developing these platforms or frameworks for collaboration. So this is an example of one of these platforms that I developed, which was creating a sea level rise board game. It was for an exhibition at the Milwaukee Museum of Art, but was intended as a functioning board game where people have to develop design empathy, understanding different perspectives, and both compete and collaborate as they determine the fate of a city. In this case, it's San Francisco. So unlike most board games, it doesn't start from a tabula rasa or a blank slate. It actually starts from a real place, a real time, and actually builds up over time. And you can actually see a map of the historic ecology underneath. So the city becomes a character within the game itself. Another platform I developed, also based in San Francisco, was this interactive website where you can also visualize different adaptation strategies, but also it helps build knowledge so you could layer maps, past, present, and potential future, in addition to kind of geo-reference historic photos and future scenarios. So this kind of laid the groundwork for what I began developing in Singapore a couple of years ago. I was working at the Earth Observatory of Singapore, working with climate change scientists. And, this really started out of my interest in working in Singapore, but also kind of coincided with the prime minister there starting to talk about sea level rise in the island state. And he shared this map in his National Day rally of 2019, showing the potential flooding inundation areas in Singapore. And, this was kind of a rallying cry to consider what are maybe alternative scenarios. Of course, the reasons behind this are that Singapore is a low-lying island, and a lot of it has been built on reclaimed land. So I'm particularly interested in this contested territory of waterfronts, not just in Singapore, but around the world. So these are images of Singapore. One, the constructed hard shoreline. The other is a natural soft shore area. The historic image here of a biodiverse beach versus this artificial beach. An image here of Singapore of the past where people lived with water, houses built on stilts, getting around by boat, and then water as just spectacle. And also kind of this, techno-positive image of things like super trees that maybe, hide the fact that the real super trees might be mangroves, where 95% of the island's mangroves have been destroyed. And in a garden city, nature has been adapted to architecture rather than traditional forms of architecture adapted to nature. So I was very interested in a new rebranding that the National Parks was doing in Singapore at the time, calling it, instead of the Garden City, a city in nature, and what this could mean for the urban waterfront. The project working with the Earth Observatory of Singapore was to create a tour along the historic shoreline, where I ended up creating 24 different installations of the site's past, present, and potential future. And first I had to find out where the historic shoreline was. So I had to look at a bunch of old maps and determine where did land reclamation take place. You can see actually in this map, all the stuff in the gray on the right is all reclaimed land. And then the map from 1843 really shows kind of mostly the historic shoreline and the downtown area. Then I had to find old images, photos, but often drawings or paintings illustrating where that shoreline used to be and what it looked like. Then I had to geo-reference those in the present day through descriptions or the image itself. And then I created these, what I called postcards from the future, looking at what it could be. At each of these sites, I created an augmented reality installation that you can see here, where it has various information. So, it might be the different 3D models, kind of illustrating that this used to be a place with mangroves. bringing back the Oriental pied hornbill. Oftentimes there was a avatar to engage people, and then different historical site information and maps, in addition to a GIF showing this potential past, present, and future. So here's a couple screenshots of the augmented reality installations. I engaged with local artists, scientists, and also invited people from other countries to contribute different images as well. I did not want to be the sole author of what this potential future might be. And so these are a couple of screenshots just from tours. And then at the end of the Fulbright fellowship, to kick things off, we actually had a pop-up installation here. And this was the first site along the tour. Happened to find this great storefront where I created the installation. So it has all of the images back there in the map, but also the window itself. We put 1 meter of sea level rise, which is what Singapore is expecting by the end of the century. And then also created an ecosystem here, bringing back some of the intertidal coral and rocky shorelines and eelgrass that used to exist in many places and has been replaced by reclaimed land and artificial beaches. So you can see here, this is one of the tours that I led, and I wanted it to be actually very much open to the public. So this was a group that just signed up on Eventbrite, which was great because I got to have conversations with people that live there, not just other scientists or researchers. And so these are some images of giving tours, people engaging with the augmented reality in each of the different installations. And actually, the part of the reason this project came to be in the first place is I ended up coming across this mural in the background you can see here, and it's on the back of a temple where Hokkien Chinese coming to Singapore traditionally would stop here and pray to the goddess Matsu, the goddess of the sea, for safe passage. And this is where people would start their time in Singapore. And so you see there's actually, if you can make it out, an image in the back where ships are actually coming up to the shore. And I realized that the shore used to be located in this area, and now it is 2 kilometers from the shore now. And so this is the artist Yip Yu Chong, and he ended up being one of the collaborators on the project. And you can see kind of the AR installation on the left that he created kind of futuristic images, and I cut out different parts of his mural to be interactive. And then to give you kind of a sense of just the parts of the augmented reality installation. So they'll have maps. So a historic map here, you can see from 1843, showing what the area looked like back then, about 180 years ago. And so here's one of the rivers coming into the basin that's now the Marina Barrage. And there's a village over here. It's a Bugis village. So Bugis came over from Indonesia, sorry, and would, often trade there and had a village. So here you can see that village as drawn in an 1846 painting. And this is what it looks like in present day. So this river has been, they've created a hard edge, and is also not tidal anymore because there is the Marina Barrage that blocks off the sea. So, thinking about the future and adaptation, this is just one vision of a postcard from the future, maybe 100 years in the future, where the river has once again become tidal, and buildings are built on stilts again. Mangroves are reintroduced back into this ecosystem. And, thinking about, what might the narrative be? What would somebody write back from the future? And so each of these postcards sometimes combines elements of the past, the present, and the future. This image here is looking at the Singapore River downtown core. And so it's maybe hard to, think about putting mangroves back into this ecosystem, but it might also kind of show an alternative scenario or alternative reality to consider what would it be like to have a dense urban environment coexisting with mangroves, where you walk through a forest on your way to a high-rise office job. So this is the installation that people will engage with on the bridge. And another one here looking at what are alternative scenarios. So what if you build a giant wall, which is a possibility? Could you still have a thriving coral ecosystem on the other side of that wall? But looking at it from another perspective, what might that wall look like if you were on the other side? Maybe not so great. And so this one is in front of one of the museums near kind of the government areas, considering what that would look like if you had a wall built up. And another site here, site number 5, considering if you did have a wall, what might the vulnerabilities be? So of course, this opens you up to a 1-point flooding event where you constantly have to maintain the wall. And so this is not only upfront costs, but forever costs in maintenance. And then looking at other scenarios where you might have a hybrid and nature-based solution that points to a middle ground. So this is site number 17. You can see the downtown in the distance. How this might adapt over time, creating habitat for the more than human world and also for people. And so that's the location of this site. So recent tour with people engaging with that site. Another place here, this is site number 4. So this is looking at the historical ecology, what the beach used to look like. And you can see there's actually children out playing in the water, engaging with the tide pools. And this makes me think of something that I often engage my students with as a professor of architecture. I ask them how many native plants and animals they can name of the place where they're living. And it's often very few. But if I ask them how many corporations they can name, it's hundreds, right? So I think that bringing back nature into the city is important, not just for biodiversity, but also for our relationship with the more than human world and our relationship to the ecosystems that support us. So this is that site today. It is a MRT station. And, this idea of what if you just take the train and it drops you off right at the beach and you can see the tidal pools. This is a kid engaging with it on the tour. Maybe one of the more controversial installations here, site number 14, is at the Merlion. This is the symbol of Singapore. I took some Singaporean government officials here and talked about what if all the ice in the world melted and we had 200 feet of sea level rise. What would Singapore look like being underwater? Could it potentially float? Who knows? So that's an installation there. And another image of a tour. And I think I have actually a video here I can play for you guys. All right, so I tried to keep that presentation as quick as possible to save time for questions. And also, if you would like to give it a try, you can scan the AR code right here. If you downloaded the Adobe Aero app and give it a try. So what you're going to want to do is you can scan it. With your camera, it opens up in Adobe Aero, and then as it loads, then you basically pan around on the ground below, and you will tap the ground, and you will place it so that kind of anchors it into our world, and then you can interact with it. If you want to do the easy shortcut, you can just scan this other QR code to the right, which is a GIF of the past, present, future for one of the sites. And if you have an Android, that's probably your best bet too, since Adobe Aero is beta and doesn't really work that great with Android. So um, that's it. Thank you very much. And I look forward to any questions you might have.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Gabriel. So we have about 7, 8 minutes for questions. And as you might have seen in the chat, we have people joining from everywhere in the world. And so maybe I'll start with a question: how you think what you have done for Singapore is feasible in other title cities, and if you have already started this process of thinking about which cities you would do that.
Yeah, I mean, definitely feasible. Because it's really just like a platform to visualize and engage with kind of climate fictions. Certainly if you want to do something that is kind of looking at the past as a precursor to inform and understand future scenarios, you have to do a little bit of that research. And so some places have, better resources to that past than others. Like, can you find historic maps or photos that help you understand maybe what the future ecosystem could be in certain places? And I think that's helpful because otherwise um, I mean, you can envision any potential future, but each one of these here is actually informed by what previously existed. And I think that's an important point because I think often the past is still present. It's just as maybe obscured. And so this is a revealing of that to think about the future. Um, but yeah, certainly I've been working, in San Francisco, in Philadelphia, very interested in New York and Boston, and certainly abroad as well. Every place has different issues. I think what would be interesting is also to work with partners who have maybe different visions or different things they want to share. So I'm also very much open to collaborations where I'm not the sole author in creating whatever these visions are, but it's more of a collaborative process. So hoping for kind of some of those opportunities as well.
Yeah, I think what you said about using the past to show the possibility for the future is very important, because you showed there used to be a cohabitation that we could still learn from, and that gives so much power to what you're proposing with the postcard.
Mm-hmm.
We have a few questions in the chat. I really welcome people to unmute as well or raise the hand to ask the question, but I'm gonna read those we have. We have one from Amanda, who apologizes for missing the start of the presentation, but was wondering whether PUB Singapore, the water utility there, was engaged in this in any way in your project.
What was the acronym?
Sorry, it was
PUB.
PUB. It's the
Oh,
Public Utility Board
PUB,
of
yeah.
Singapore. Yeah, I just wanted, sorry, I'm Amanda.
Yeah.
Thanks. Really super interesting. Yeah, I just wanted to the extent that they were engaged or a stakeholder or interested in this kind of thing. 'Cause it's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for the question. And yeah, I was like, I know this acronym. There's lots of acronyms so PUB, and then the URA, Urban Redevelopment Agency, both engaged to some degree. So those are both the organizations that are in charge of real estate, building out Singapore, land reclamation. And so definitely key stakeholders. You could understand also there's maybe a little bit of hesitation going on the record of kind of supporting visions of flooding Singapore. So there was engagement of individuals who would come out and engage with the project. But as far as like organizational support, not yet. And I think that, if I showed maybe like beautiful visions of newly reclaimed land with parks on it, that might be more in the realm of what they have been doing. I do think that there is opportunity moving forward because, you know, I don't think it's just this project that's kind of pushing that needle, but I think there are other other things going on, like in parks, national parks, who are looking at more of these wild or, you know, um, less maintained ecosystems. So less parks, but more, you know, things like tidal ecosystems uh, to be engaged with some of the future projects. So there's a huge project going on the East Coast where they're planning on doing vast amounts of reclaimed land again, but they have a couple problems. They don't have enough sand, and they also, I think, are interested in integrating a bit more with natural systems. So I think that's an opportunity. The organizations that were more involved in parks, and then um, also like the Ministry of Education, they've actually been very interested in bringing this into some of the curriculum as far as how to engage high school and college students in kind of learning about this and kind of engaging with like an outdoor activity. So there has been some interest and support on the government side, but I think they are pretty conservative. So
Thank you very much.
yeah, thank you.
We have another question from Jill Thompson asking if you're speaking with the people that use the augmented reality to see how it informs their thinking, or if it's more like entertainment. And what do the local people think of the installations that you have presented?
Another great question. Yeah, so you know, I am not like a scientist by training, so even the idea of doing like a post evaluation of like how people like considered it, I was like, oh, that's an interesting idea. Working with like scientists, so I did have like an evaluation that people would do where they would give feedback, but it probably would have been better to have like a, you know, somebody who knows how to do these develop more of a scientific maybe worded survey. But I do have some evidence both from doing public tours with more like local residents, and then also with students and faculty at the Nanyang Technological University, and then also a number of other conferences and organizations have used this platform. And also we had the people from the government. So I have had input and there has been things filled out. And so we actually recently wrote a paper. I wrote it in collaboration with some scientists at NTU, where they were they were collecting more of that data. And so generally, I think it's a mixture, like even putting like the avatar, like this interactive kind of, you know, person in there. I was trying to balance it not being distracting, but also being engaging. And so I want to get people from all different age levels. So when I was doing it with the college students, they really engaged with that. They thought it was cool. And you know, definitely there were a lot of comments about how they putting the augmented reality into a place, like a specific place where it actually has history, was important because then they understood the transformations of that place. And you know, I think seeing the futuristic visions of flooding at first, a lot of the local Singaporeans were like, whoa, I don't like this. This is weird. But I think they understood it a little bit more later, that this isn't like happening like tomorrow or even 10 years from now. It might be more like 50 years or 100 years. And when they started seeing the different scenarios, like, well, you could put a wall or you could let the water in, or you can maybe, you know, you need to have things like canals or reservoirs like the Marina Barrage, but that might not be enough. And in some places you don't have a reservoir, or what could a reservoir look like? Could that also be include kind of nature-based solutions into it? So I think when you started, you know, building this knowledge in a place, they were a lot more receptive to different visions of what the future could look like. And also, I think what was really shocking to them is to see what it used to look like, because maybe they've never seen that. So I think a lot of people can grow up in a place and not know what a place used to look like that they've spent their whole life. I know that was the case for me. So, you know, I think that, yeah. So I think that was the feedback I've been getting.
Great. Gabriel, you started to hint on the question of nature-based solutions, which is precisely the question that Rembrandt had in the chat. But just to make sure that we leave enough time for Victor's presentation and questions, is it okay for you to respond there, and so you can expand on the question of nature-based solutions being integrated there? Thank you so much. That was fantastic, and I'm sure a lot of people will want to also know if you can share your slides, if it's okay with us to put them on the website or share them by email, and then they can use the QR code in their own time as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great, thank you. Okay, so passing on to Victor, Victor Kinjo. I'm super excited to have him with us. It's been years that we tried to invite him to Natural Spaces. Victor is a postdoctoral researcher at the University of São Paulo. And as an indigenous European living in Brazil, his research on urban rivers has evolved in conjunction with his reflections on identity and culture. But Victor is also a singer, a songwriter, and producer. If you have not heard his music, I really invite you to do so. I still remember the first time I heard it 4 years ago, and I completely fell in love with Victor's music. So that's it. Passing on to you, Victor. The floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Good morning or good afternoon. I don't know where you are exactly. Well, first of all, thank you so much, Luan, and all the team of Natura and USL. I'm very happy to be here too. And I'm very excited also watching the Gabriel's work. I think it's very interesting, also very linked to what we are thinking here. And we're working also with expanded reality, like studying the power of this tool to the issues that we are working. But well, I want to share my screen too, and let me see if it works. Oh. Can you see it?
We can see it, but it has a funny format. Oh, maybe it's if you can yeah, if you can try again.
A minute. And now?
No, but I'm wondering whether it's because the format of the sharing is not at the right size. But we can do what we discussed, Victor. If you want, I can share on your behalf, and you tell me next.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Great. Thank you. Okay, so well, I think it was a challenge to think like how can we gather all the work that we've been doing, but I chose like to show a little bit of each thing that we're doing. I think there's a challenge of connecting local and global somehow, and being like a Brazilian and also with these Okinawan roots is like the colonial thought also became very precious for us to watch, to water, and to look for a new culture of water. So can you do the next, please? Yeah, so I could not avoid to start with what's going on now in Brazil. Like, this picture is from last week, and Porto Alegre is one of the biggest is the biggest city of South Brazil. And we just had like the most terrible flood there. And can you give the next one, please? Yeah, so we had like 2.3 million people affected in 463 cities in Rio Grande do Sul, the state of the Rio Grande do Sul. And more than 100 people died, and a lot of people disappeared, and more than 500,000 people are displaced. Like, this is now. This is like now, and it's very frightening how fast it is and how unprepared we were. And of course, there were studies about the risk of this flooding several years ago already. But the government preferred another agenda. And of course, I think this, globally speaking, we have a very big challenge to communicate society like that this is already happening, and like the cities will need to adapt. So I think the work of Gabriel is very powerful, also in the sense like showing people like, I mean, it's already happening, but we can show people that the risk and how can we adapt, also not just dealing with the problems, but also how can we prevent that the death and this kind of situation. So can you show please the next one? And this is also, I mean, the economic loss also of all this. This is the city market that is flooded, and here's the airport. So the airport is closed for, I don't know, 1 month maybe. And it's really like a very crazy situation and I mean, I wanted to start with this because I think the water is getting very rebel, not for nothing. I mean, can you show the next, please? So I mean, how the water is getting angry, and of course, is how the devastation of the Amazon forest. This is last year, for example. This is the Yanomami indigenous land, and this is a illegal mining industry. And of course, this gold also goes to the north, mainly. So there's a link here between all these issues. And yeah, also that next one, please. And I mean, the Yanomami people who is indigenous peoples, they got poisoned because of the mining. So it is about the forest, but it is about also the people who lives in the forest. This is Doce River in the Minas Gerais in 2015. With the valley, it's also a mining issue. Like the dam was broken, and then the mud. This is a toxic mud that came everywhere in the city and killed also a lot of people. And I mean, this is like Vale was a state company who was privatized in 2005, I think. And then like British Petroleum, so like some mining company were ruling this mine. And I imagine like people doesn't know, like the impact that this caused, like in Brazil or in this indigenous lands. So next one, please. This is the Pinheiros River. This is where I live, actually, my city, São Paulo. And the river, of course, was like curve, like in the left picture. And in the right side is what has been done what happened to the river. This is also a Canadian company who made this work. So they make it straight. Yeah, being a queer, like being a LGBT, also I've been thinking about the relation between like identity and thought, and I'm calling this the straight engineering, like how making straight the river, and also like some kind of colonial engineering. In this river, they reverse the course of the river, even that, so now we are working we want to regenerate, but it's really what happened, like we cannot come back, and so we are trying to understand what to do. And can I see the next one, please? And this is Okinawa. This is Ryukyu. In Okinawa, Ryukyu is a chain of islands between Taiwan and Japan. And in the past, it was an independent kingdom, and until the end of 19th century. And then it was colonized by Japan. And then after the war, it was occupied by the US. And for 27 years, it became US. And now we have 20% of the territory occupied by military bases. And this is a fountain, because we are recognized as indigenous peoples of Asia. And in the past, the babies, as in every indigenous culture, we would bathe the babies in the source, in the clean water sources of the village, as the first bath. So this was a place like this. And now, because there's a contamination of the water because of PFOS, that comes from the military base, for the air base, and it's contaminating the water with this chemical. And this is the drinking water of 400,000 people in Okinawa. And of course, all this information is invisible. I mean, it's not represented somehow. So can you go to the next one, please? So this year I've been to the UN Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues, and when you talk to the indigenous peoples, like every people is struggling with some kind of the same kind of problem, mining and petroleum and military. And I mean, how can we regenerate? How can we recover the land and the planet if like we're talking about like a $3 trillion investment in military every year, so like it's very hard to imagine a world like the regeneration with still this kind of culture, that is dominating the planet somehow. Well, here it starts another chapter of this presentation. This is where I live now. Actually, in 2015, when I finished my PhD, and I discovered this indigenous identity, I needed to move. I needed to go to the forest. So we came here, me and my partner, to live in the Atlantic forest. This is the metropolitan region of São Paulo. At that time, we were having a drought. So I realized like the connection with the climate change, because we were having water once every 2 days in São Paulo. And I was like, oh my God, I don't want to live like this. I want to live close to the clean water. So we came to this farm. And next one, please. So we started to like learn again how to plant and like how to relate to the land. I think Gabriel mentioned this too, like how many plants can you name or animals? And I mean, I was a PhD, but I felt so ignorant, so I when I arrived in the forest, I'm still not a good farmer, I have to say. But we've been learning a lot by watching nature, which is, I think, the base of nature-based solution, right? Is like to observe like what nature is saying, because water is an alive being. Anyway, the next one, please. So we built this place for artistic research in the forest, especially dance, music, and theater performance. But everything, in the end, there's no this separation. So we've been making academic research. As Luan mentioned, I'm in the postdoc at the Institute of Advanced Studies, like reading data and making research, making field research also, but in the same time, like working artistically, like, because all these also touch us emotionally very strongly, like how to deal with the inner waters also. So the singing in the indigenous culture, for example, is the way that we express knowledge and respect. And we also sing to the ancestors, we sing to the waters. This is how indigenous cultural works, so we've been singing in this place a lot, to also ancient songs. We research about ancient songs and we write new songs. Next one, please, Luan. Yeah, so here is what we would call permaculture at that time, but I think we can call it nature-based solution too. This is an ecological sanitation process called evapotranspiration basin. So yeah, so we kind of filter the sewage from the water. We separate water and sewage through this kind of filter. And in fact, from this point of view, like the sewage is not trash, it's resource in the end, because you can reuse the sewage to or fertilization, natural fertilization, this kind of thing. Né? And yeah, so we use this kind of system there. And next one, please. And of course, we started to see water everywhere. Like it's a rainforest, so it rains a lot, and the water rain falls and goes to the underground, and it's born in the vegetables, and then it goes to the rivers, and we drink the water, so the water is inside us. So we started to understand and watch like how water gather all of us, né? And it seems that the water that we see nowadays is the same water that our ancestors drank once, you know, like it's a closed system in this sense. So I think the water is not rebel for nothing. Né? We've been poisoning the water now in the last decades. And we are so smart, the humans, we have so many good things, you know. And I think we have to make a like social effort for regeneration. Né? The next one, please. Yeah, so now we've been, I think what is amazing about art is because we can imagine like another reality, né? As the expanded reality too, né? So painting is also like this. And then, so now we are reforesting this land because it was very, when we arrived, yeah, it was very devastated also, this land. This terrain. So we are reforesting in partnership with the TNC and other local associations. So we planted already, I think, 3,000 trees. And this is in the right, it's a technology, like it's a set of seeds, you know, so you put like 30 different kinds of seeds together. So some plants grow earlier, and then they make the shadow needed to the bigger trees. So very interesting how it works, and it's been very interesting to make part of this reforestation. And the next one, please. Yeah, but of course, like it's not enough to be in the farm, I feel. So we've been also working with the urban rivers. This is the Chiete River, the city where I'm born, né? And for decades now, we have roads around the river, né? So people forgot it's a river. People say, oh, it's not a river, it's dead. It's a sewage, just, you know. So this kind of cultural indifference of the water. And maybe because I was living in the farm and singing to the water, so when I was being back to São Paulo, I would stop my car and watch the river and cry to the river, né? Like and then sing to the river and then make research, né? So the next one, please. So this is a video clip. Maybe can you just put play and with no sound? Maybe then I can. But we made an expedition during this postdoc, because this is a 1,000 kilometers river. So, and a river never dies, you know, a river suffers and asks for help. And the Chiete River is definitely asking for help. And but we traveled all the extension, this 1,000 kilometers. Also, like this picture where I am now, in my picture is in the source of the Chiete River. So even if the river is polluted now, but the source of the river is clean. And even after like 500 kilometers after São Paulo, the river is clean again. You know, so like the power of the resilience of water is very strong. And so it makes us think that even if we are in a hard situation now, we can make it different, you know. This is what water teach us to. Yeah, so if you can put a little bit later the video too, we can see like the river where it's clean. Yeah, there is the worst part, the worst part actually just after São Paulo, that the river gets worse and worse, and then after 500 kilometers it starts to get better and better and better until it is clean again and people can wash, can swim and everything. So we're trying to use arts as a tool also for sharing this kind of information. And so after that, this is 2021. Then we made like kind of a festival in the margins of Chiete River, so we can watch the river together if it and listen to him. Né? Yeah, so thank you. And then I can send this link later if you wanna watch the whole work. Né? And yeah, the next one. Yeah, this is another amazing history. That it's like in front of our farm there was a dam, the Jundiaí River Dam. And we sang for this dam so many years, so many mornings. And then the dam started to tell stories. Né? And one is this one about the Chiete River. And the other one is about this painter called Chandai Chen. He's a Chinese painter, but not any Chinese painter. He's the most like celebrated Chinese painter of the 20th century. And to nowadays, his work is like the third more valuable in the world, like in front of Monet, in front of so many European artists. And he lived in Brazil for 20 years. And in the 70s, because of the construction of this dam, they flooded the place where he lived. It was a farm, and he built a garden. He built the Eight Virtues Garden, a garden like a paradise in earth. Né? And for 20 years, and because of the dam, it was flooded. And so now we are trying to work with the community to regenerate this place. So a local artist built this sculpture of 4-meter sculpture in the ruins of this garden. And we're starting to work with the schools to bring the children and to form the teachers about what was this garden, and how can we, what if now we start to plant the plants again and we can have it again. So I think, for example, augmented reality, it will be like such a powerful tool to show how it was this garden before and how it can be again. Né? Yeah, so yeah, we can talk about this more, but it's a very amazing story, and it's very interesting because we are working with the community. Né? And this is being like a difference, a big difference to engage the community in this process. Né? And to finish, the next one, please, Luan. Yeah, because I mean, sorry, it was a little bit abrupt, this change, but like the water is everywhere. Né? So if we start to see everywhere how the water is being treated, then we can have clues, how to work maybe. Here is New York. Last year I've been as a visiting scholar at New York University Tisch School of the Arts, the performance studies. Oh, sorry. And one thing that was shocking me all the time is like the right for bathroom and water in the city. New York is such a like a rich and amazing city, and for me, like to see the homeless people in New York was so shocking somehow, because like it's the richest city of the world. So guys, how come you don't have the money and the resources and the knowledge to solve some kind of problems? So this is the last time I came. This is April, 2 months ago. Last month actually. This is Washington Square, in the NYU campus. And I was going to the restroom 5 p.m. and it was closed for no restroom. And then there was this student peeing in the tree. Like in the farm, we pee in the tree. Like that, this is how it is, nature-based solution. We pee in the trees in the forest, and he was peeing in a tree. And then the police arrived and gave him a bill. They were actually in the approach, because of the demonstrations also. So I started to record them, and I started to ask the policeman, okay, but where should he go, if he wants to go to the restroom? And anyway, I think it's a problem. It's a social problem, to like we concreted all the land, and then there's no place to go to the restroom in the same time. And more than that, and the next one, please, which is the water issue. Like I was walking in the, I don't know, 7th Avenue or something like that in Manhattan, like all this richness, as I was saying. And then there was a man, black man in the street, in the floor, like he was not, I mean, he was coughing and very bad. He was like asking for help somehow, and everybody like running. Now we are so busy. We're so busy all the time. And then I looked at him. I was like, oh my God, like what can we do? And then another woman also stopped, and we were like, what can we do? And we gave him water. And so he washed his face, he drank some water, and he was fine again, you know. But I mean, you have to have $3 to buy a bottle of water. Né? And water, thinking about nature-based solution, water is free. Water is free in nature. Water is in the rivers, water is everywhere. So this is a nature-based solution, in my opinion, that it could be implemented everywhere, né? Because it's not easy, it's not hard. I mean, um ato falho, né? It's not hard, but in the same time, we have a new culture of water to have free water in every city, in everywhere, né? And then culture is not that easy to change, but I think working together, né, and working with imagination, like changing, like the people are so yeah, so imagination. And the next one, please. So we are working. This is our new project, where the project that we're working now, called Love and Water. And there are new songs about water in different languages also, and different contexts, different dimensions, let's say like that, about water. And and we are trying to gather exactly technology, especially expanded reality, music, and ideas for regeneration. Yeah. How if we can like create these new images of how our cities could be, you know. And yeah, so it's in the beginning, this project. So I hope that we can work together also in some dimensions of it, and things, ideas. And yeah, I think there is a challenge, as I said, about climate communication and also scientific communication, because I mean, we have so many ideas in the university that could be shared with people, with the citizens. And I think technology and arts are very, very powerful tools to do this. Yeah, so also with this I finish, and I thank you so much for having this opportunity to share these ideas with you. And yeah, so if you have any question, it will be a pleasure.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Victor. And so many things to discuss here. So the first thing I'm gonna say is ask if you're happy to stay a few extra minutes to talk to people who have questions to ask you. I definitely can stay, but Gabriel, obviously, and everyone else, I'm aware that usually the webinars are 1 hour. So if you have questions but don't have time to ask them, feel free to post them here, and or reach out to Victor. His email address is there and you can contact him. As I said, many things that you brought up, and one of them seems to be that augmented reality in Sao Paulo could be something very interesting to explore. I don't know if this is something that Gabriel would like to react on.
Yeah, amazing work. The slides you opened up with, and the flooding was pretty amazing. What part of Brazil was that again? You said it was in the south?
Yeah, this is Porto Alegre. Porto
Uh-huh.
Alegre. Yeah.
And is that near the coast, or is it actually
It
farther
is.
inland? Okay,
Yeah,
interesting.
but not so much. But this is the river actually.
Yeah.
It's a lake that was flooded, you know.
But I think, yeah, those issues of like compound flooding, where it ends up being terrestrial mixed with coastal, and yeah, it made me think about how what might planning look like, where infrastructure doesn't need to look like a dam or anything. It could be a park. And I think what I found really powerful with the work that you were doing is bringing art and like engagement and like playfulness, like music and dance connecting to nature, I think is amazing. I think bringing some of that maybe into augmented reality would be very cool.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah,
not just like a
you're
little
right.
installation, but it's maybe a little bit more engagement and artistic and fun. Yeah, I just thought that was such a kind of beautiful part of your work.
And I think also these two things together, né? Because also the installation remains there. Like this is a difference between performance, because the performance is like 1 hour and then it's gone. But we have these two things together, then it becomes like very powerful, né? I think. Yeah. But definitely, I mean, we need you all to come and to watch together what happened, and like what can we imagine from that, né? Because I think there will be a process of rebuilding the city, because it was really very strong, so they will need to rebuild the city. So what if we rebuild this city already thinking about climate adaptation and nature-based solutions and all this, né? I think this is very important to stress.
Mm-hmm.
Victor, you've touched a lot on the idea of justice, and I have a specific question for you. So we know well that nature-based solutions, they steer a lot of debates, notably around the risk of land grabbing and greenwashing in the name of environmental conservation. And so, as you mentioned, you recently attended the UN Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues. The latest was last month in New York. And I wanted to ask if you could share some critical insights on the statements and the kind of demands made by different groups who are part of the forum to address those risks and achieve restorative justice and any other forms of justice as well.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna sum up this question with the question that appeared here in the chat about becoming indigenous, né? It's what happened to me crazily, because there's an issue of identity, in the sense of our indigenous identities were erased for so many centuries, né? So in Okinawa, for example, we were colonized. So when you were colonized, they make you have a national identity, and they erase your language, your culture, your spirituality, né? So because of a process of recovering this, we were recognized recently from the UN in 2008 as indigenous, and but Japan, for example, didn't recognize the Ryukyun as indigenous. So we go to the UN every year to demand that our identity can be recognized. And also because if we are recognized, we are also under the UNDRIP, which is the UN Declaration on Indigenous Rights. And I mean, you cannot occupy an indigenous land with no conversation, with no debate on that. Né? And but of course, we are talking about power relations, so it's not easy. And so the forum is it's a place where every year is a permanent forum. So every year, the indigenous peoples of the world, the whole world, gather at the UN, né? Which is a very also limited place, the UN, somehow. You can see that there, né? But also very important, very powerful, né? And then like the delegations, the indigenous delegations, they can make their statements, which are usually about the violence of these rights in their national context. So it happens everywhere, né? Linked to land occupation, linked to self-determination, projects on or language revitalization. For example, our language, the Uchinaguchi, the language of my grandparents, is disappearing. Right? So we can have policies to recover the languages. And the languages, as we know, they are how we also connect to nature, right? How we spell our words to nature. Then it's culture, right? And I mean, always I feel there's very powerful, if the indigenous knowledge could be heard in the academia, in the political spaces, maybe we could have new directions, to deal with this situation. But it's also always very sad. Like I always go out very sad from there because it's a lot of suffering, it's a lot of pain. Like our inner waters also suffering. And in this sense, I think the alliance, the alliance between indigenous knowledge, scientific knowledge, arts, social associations, communities, institutions, like if we can make this work, with it's also how water works, né? Water goes and it sums everybody. Né? If we could do that, like it will be very nice and powerful, I think.
Victor, in the chat, Sharin made a very strong point about what you shared towards the end on public restrooms being a right that is not accessible to everyone, as well as the water story you said about someone who collapsed in the street. And Sharin, I don't know if you want to say it directly, but I'm going to read what you wrote here if you want. This is related to hostile architecture to prevent homeless people using them, and one of the faces of underinvestment in public or community spaces. Lack of space to use the restroom also creates a tether limiting people's use of public space. It's part of why for a long time public ladies' rooms were not common and segregated toilets were a thing. It made sure you could not be out in a public space for long. It's now a problem for trans people and people unable to spend money to use private businesses facilities. Is it something that you want to reflect on, expand on in terms of your own experiences, maybe in Sao Paulo as well?
Yeah, I think the best example of public toilets is Tokyo, actually. Tokyo, they have, because they solve this architecturally also, like the public restrooms are somehow opened also. Né? So like you cannot like live there, it's somehow, and also individuals toilets with doors and automatic thing, I mean, we have technology to solve these two things in the same time, I feel. Né? And I don't know, always when I go to New York, because of the place, New York is a very unique city. Everything that happens in New York is being spread all around the world. So it should be an example in the sense. It is a global city. It is a global city, so if we can give the example in New York and several of these topics, né, it could be very powerful, really. Like, yeah.
100% agreed. Well, I think we're gonna stop here, but I really, really want to say thank you to you both for the amazing presentation. And as we said earlier, if it's okay with you, we'll make them available on the NATURA website. You have shared both fantastic material. I want people to see the video you shared, Victor, because I could hear your singing in the background. People could not, but that was absolutely beautiful. So we'll be in touch with you. And just as an announcement, it's a small group now, people know, but I'm just going to remind everyone that we have the Nature of Cities Festival coming up in Berlin from the 3rd to the 7th. And NATURA will be there. We have a bunch of sessions. We will also share the details about them on the website. And we have our application for Early Care Network Fellowships happening, and the deadline is on June 10th. So if you have any interest, you can contact hosts, which are listed on the website. And if you have questions about the fellowship itself, you can contact me or you contact Tessa. And the last thing is the next webinar will be on June 25th, if I'm correct. And we will have Loredana Scuto from IUCN and Weiqi Shu from the Chinese Academy of Sciences. And that's it. Thank you again all for joining us, and Gabriel and Victor for your presentations.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Yeah.